Hey everyone, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how you can convert your old hair assets to conform to the new system. On the screen right now I have an old hair asset from the content store. You can find the link in the description if you want to check it out. The first thing we'll want to do is to find our hair in the material list. You can see that the current hair shader is set to Digital Human Shader. With previous hair assets there was only a single base color map that you could use to adjust the hair color. If we go down into the shader settings, you can see that there are currently no texture maps here since these are only used in the new hair system. There are also a number of sliders below in the strand and highlight sections which will only become active once they are root and ID maps. Therefore, the first item of business is to produce these from our currently available texture maps. We can do this by launching the opacity map in Photoshop and using it as a UV reference. The next step is to create a separate layer and then select the top area which contains the hair strands. Then you can create a gradient in that selected area. From there you'll want to create an additional layer, place it below your gradient, and fill that layer with a solid white color. We can then save this out as a JPEG file for our root map. Next we want to create an ID map, so let's start off by hiding the previous layers and creating a new one. This process is a little bit rough, but it's good enough for general ID map functionality. Start off by using the Transit by Gradient tool in the Reflected Gradient mode, and place a faded column in the same selected areas in the middle of each hair section. From there, simply make the solid white layer visible again with your new layer still over top of it, and then save it out as a unique ID map. Let's create another ID map just so we can see the comparison between the two. We'll start off by creating a gradient on our current layer, which is on top of the white layer below. We'll need to transform this gradient column so that it matches the length of the hair strands from our original map. From there, we can use the Warp tool to create some waves in our gradient so that it creates more interesting highlights that conform more to the waviness of the original hair map. Use Ctrl-Alt-Shift and click and drag each curved gradient layer to create new ones throughout the width of the image. And then go ahead and save. Okay, now that we have our root and ID maps, let's apply them and see what sort of effect they have. With the root map enabled, we will have the option to adjust parameters in the strand and highlight color sections. First thing we want to do is select Activate Hair Color in the base color section. This allows us to create a fade between our root and end colors as they are defined in this section. You can choose any color combination that suits your choice, and once you're happy, there are some more options under strand color that you can use to adjust and get the results that you want. First, there are 4 different blend modes, each with their own unique results on the hair. These are Normal, Multiply, Overlay, and Soft Light. There are also 4 additional parameters below that you can adjust for varying results. 3 of them are strength sliders for both the roots and the ends, as well as an overall global strength slider, and finally, one that inverts the colors. Once you're happy with the root and end results, you can move on to the highlights. Currently that section isn't active because the ID map hasn't been input yet, so let's go and input the ID map we created earlier. You'll see that the areas that we made black in the ID map now contain a fairly thick highlight. This is mainly because the columns that we made were fairly thick. You can change the color of this to whatever you want, of course, and once you have that set, there is also an important setting below that for affected range, which allows you to tweak the thickness of your highlights. You can further customize it with the advanced parameters below as well, which will allow you to tweak and randomize the results a bit more for a more unique look. Let's try applying our second ID map now and see the difference. You'll see this one has a bit more curvature and the highlights better conform to the waviness of the hair. The affected range slider here affects the thickness of the highlights as well. As you can see, by mixing around the look of our ID map, we can create a wide variety of unique styles, each with their own special highlight pattern. If you want to learn more about these specific parameters and what they do, please check out our other advanced hair system tutorials. That's really all there is to converting legacy hair to be compatible with the new hair system in Character Creator and iClone. Thanks for watching, and as always, make sure to check out our forums at forum.reallusion.com, and I'll see you in the next video.